1971 was a pivotal year, and let me show you why that is. This is an inflation graph that points to 1971. You don't have to know much about the economy or inflation to see that this graph is showing that something happened in 1971. Here's the median income difference since 1971, the average black American's income since 1971, the amount of currency crashes we've had since 1971. The use of fillers, oils, and soybeans in our food since 1971. Inflation literally since the Revolutionary War. This graph, because this is my favorite one. This is U.S. national debt. Let's look at what happened in 1971. What happened in 1971? Well, right here we can see August 15th of 1971, the gold standard. What does that mean? You, your grandpa, uncle may have told you that America was ruined the day we released ourselves from the gold standard. But what does that mean? What is the gold standard? Why did we release ourselves from it? What does releasing ourselves from it even mean? Imagine you sold brownies and you have a whole pan of brownies, 10 in total, and you decide, okay, these have to cool down, so what I'm going to do for all the people that want to buy these brownies is I'm going to give them a certificate. And the certificate is good for one brownie. When it's cooled off and ready to sell, you can come back, give me the certificate, and then you get your brownie. And then afterwards, once I've given you your certificate, you can come back, I give you the brownie, I get the certificate back. That's essentially how the dollar works with gold, or at least how it worked until 1971. And so America did the same thing, except instead of brownies, it was gold. And they said, wow, all this gold we need to assign to the Americans. How do we do that without just handing out gold? Well, we need to assign a certificate that is responsible for a certain amount of the gold. See, if you get $1, you are now getting a piece of the American economy, a piece of the gold that we have in our reserves. And up until 1971, that's how it worked. We didn't print more money unless we had more money coming in, unless we had more gold. But as different countries around the world were beginning to exchange their dollars for gold, our reserves were getting low, and we made a very critical decision. We decided to release ourselves from that gold standard. So now if you had gotten a certificate from, one of your brownie salesmen to go get a brownie later on when the brownies were ready, and you came back and said, here's my brownie certificate, and the person looked at you and said, oh, that's worth less brownie now, you would be confused because you at one point agreed that this much brownie for this much certificate. But as of 1971, they detethered that, meaning now the government gets to decide how much brownie you get for each certificate. And if you're wondering who makes those decisions as to how much the dollar is worth, that's the Federal Reserve, and monetary policy has been run by them since the monster of Jekyll Island happened in 1913. If you're curious about that story, I'll go into it another time, but it was the founding of the Federal Reserve. And after Bretton Woods of 1944, we're in a world where the gold standard was humongous in tying together the entire global economy. So a removal from it sent inflation on a spiral. Now here's the point of how it affects today. If you have something that's detethered from its actual value, it is considered a fiat currency. What's fiat currency? Well, you can remember what fiat means with another four-lettered F word. It means fake. It's as good as monopoly money. It's as good as whatever value you assign to it. This is why you hear people say, if we all just stop spending money, the economy would crash. Because they're right. The use of the dollar is the value of the dollar. If everyone decided the dollar wasn't valuable anymore, well, it wouldn't be. But if everyone just went and said, oil's not valuable anymore, gold's not valuable anymore, that wouldn't be true. It still holds value to some people. The dollar holds no more value than being paper, colored a certain specific way to mean something to you and I. And the government, knowing this since 1971, has gone on a printing spree starting in our next date, 86. In the 80s, from 1981 to 1989, we added $1 trillion to our economy. We tracked this with a number called the M2 money supply, and as of 1981, that number was 1.6 trillion. Remember that. It went up a whole $1 trillion during Reagan's term, but you may ask yourself, Zach, what president added to that the most? And you may already be asking, was it Biden? Was it Trump? Was it Obama? Was it Bush? And the answer is yes. Now, which party is most to blame? I'll tell you that in a second, but to understand that, I need you to know this stat. The $1.6 trillion money supply number I just told you has stayed tethered to our population, meaning as our population grows, we have more people, more households, more jobs, more tourism, more things going on in America. This number has grown. And that's natural. Our economy needs more money flowing in it, more money in loans, savings, IRAs, just physical cash, and the M2 money tracks all that. We need more of it as more people enter our country. That's a fact. But has that number tracked with our population since then? Now, here's where we could start looking at blame. A red party, George Bush, in his term, from the dot-com bubble to the housing market crash, what a term to have, by the way, 9/11 mixed in there, Over $4 trillion was added to the M2 money supply. We went from 4.5 trillion to 8.5 trillion, almost doubling it during his term. For reference, that number was 1.6 trillion in 81. We're now up to 8.5 trillion in 2008. But wait, by the end of Obama's term, that went from 8.5 trillion to 13.5 trillion, adding nearly 5 trillion to the M2 money supply. Then 2016 to 20, through the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, as well as the CARES Act, Trump would add over $1 trillion to the M2 money supply. And from 2021 on, Biden would continue adding money, more than $3 trillion again. But here's the big thing I want everyone to hear. I don't want you to hear party. I don't want you to hear president. I want you to hear the long tail effect over the last 40 years, what's happened to that M2 money supply in regards to population. See, in terms of population, according to the M2 money supply versus how many people were in America, there was just about $6,500 per capita available in money per American. Let me break that down again. Per every American in America, based on all the American money available, everyone could have had $6,500. That's how it would have split. It's not all physical money rolling around. It's not all wages, not all income. I get that, but just simple math. We have this much money available, this many Americans. Now, since then, there's 20 times more money. In 1981, there was $1.6 trillion in our supply. Now there's 21.3 trillion. That's 20x. So you may be asking, have we 20x'd our population? Have we 10x'd our population? Even 5x'd our population? Let's look. Because there was about $6,500 worth of money per person in America in 1981. Today, that number is $61,000. There's $61,000 per American in America as of 2024. In 2024, there's not 230 million people like there were in 1981. No, there's 341 million. Hardly a 50% increase, yet we have 20x the money. 2,000% more money, 50% less people or more people. 2,000% more money, 50% more people. There's more than $60,000 per capita available per American. 10 times more than there was in 1981. Yet people feel 10 times broker, not 10 times richer. People feel 10 times richer when they should be feeling 10 times more wealthy because there's 10 times more money per person in America. Can I advise us all to stop yelling blue, red, blue, red? Stop yelling all of that. Start yelling green. Start looking at the money. Start looking at the power and the money that is being gained through these positions, that is being gained by being able to pass these legislations and bills little by little, trickling in more money, by more money, by more money. And they know what they're doing. They know via the Cantillon effect and things that happen in Rome and France in historic economics, macroeconomics specifically, to know that when we add money to our economy, only the top get better. Only the people who hold assets get more money. And since 1913, with the Federal Reserve coming in, since 44, having this global effort with the dollar happen, I'm getting worked up. Everything's changed since 1971. Reaganomics set it in stone. And as of 2021, we've continued the trend. We keep printing money. We keep printing money. We keep printing money, which means you're going to get broker and broker and broker unless you hold assets or you're one of the people at the top. And that's just the way it is right now. And that doesn't sit well with me, but that's what the timeline says. Stop yelling at red or blue. Start looking at green. It's always been up versus down.